All right, let's talk about a war, but it's probably not one you've ever heard of. This is one of the oldest, biggest, and maybe most brutal conflicts our planet has ever seen. It's a war fought on every single continent except Antarctica. Welcome to the Global Ant War.
Seriously, think about that for a second. We always look at human history for these epic battles and giant empires, but what if I told you a war with billions, that's billions with a B, of soldiers, and literally trillions of casualties is going on right now? In your backyard, in the cracks of the sidewalk you walk on every day.
And nope, this is not a sci-fi movie plot. This is a very real, very silent invasion happening on a global scale.
I mean, it's this secret war, right? It's fought in the shadows, totally out of our sight. A huge struggle for territory and for resources between these rival empires. And the battlefields, they're not in some distant land. They're the parks we walk our dogs in, the gardens we work in. And the scale is just mind-blowing. We're talking about armies of millions upon millions of soldiers in just one colony. Every single one is a totally dedicated fighter in these massive legions that can stretch for miles.
So forget about guns and tanks. This is chemical warfare, pure and simple. Their main weapons? Super sophisticated pheromone trails that they use to coordinate these massive attacks. And then, sprays of formic acid that can literally dissolve their enemies. It is a brutal and, frankly, a crazy effective way to fight.
And the cost of this war? Well, get ready for this number. 1 trillion. Scientists estimate that about 1 trillion ants die in these turf wars every single year. That's a number, a level of conflict that is almost impossible for our brains to even wrap around. So, who exactly is fighting in this insane trillion-casualty war? Well, let's meet the superpowers.
So you've basically got two sides here, the invaders and the defenders. On one side, you have species like the Argentine ant. Their strategy is just total war, annihilate everything. And their strength comes from this really bizarre thing called a global supercolony. And on the other side, you've got the native ants, the defenders. They're just fighting to protect their own turf, but they are often completely outmatched and just overwhelmed.
And that brings us to their secret weapon, this idea of a super colony, and it is absolutely wild. I want you to imagine a single unified empire that stretches all the way from Spain to Italy, or across the entire state of California. An ant from one end of this empire can meet an ant from the other end, thousands of miles away, and instantly know, hey, you're on my team. They waste zero time or energy fighting each other, which lets them focus everything they've got on conquering new land. It's a real game changer.
But how did they get so good at this? Well, this didn't just happen overnight. This has been building for a long, long time. We're talking about an ancient arms race that's been going on for over 100 million years.
Just look at this timeline. Ants were around with the dinosaurs. And when that big asteroid hit 66 million years ago and wiped them out, the ants didn't just survive, they thrived. They started taking over the planet. By about 50 million years ago, they were one of the most dominant life forms out there. But it's these last 500 years, because of us, because of human globalization, that's created this new kind of monster, the global super invader.
You know, the famous biologist E.O. Wilson, a guy who spent his entire life studying ants, he put it perfectly. He basically said that long before humans ever built a single city, long before we had empires, the ants, they had already conquered the world.
Okay, so this has been going on for millions of years. Why should we care now? Well, because their ancient war is starting to become our war, and it's having some very, very real consequences for us. And I'm not speaking metaphorically. We're talking real money. Billions of dollars every year. These invasive ants cause incredible damage to agriculture around the world, destroying crops. And on top of that, they do billions in damage to our infrastructure, chewing through electrical wires, undermining the foundations of our buildings. And the crazy part is how easily it all starts. It just takes one pregnant queen, hiding out in a shipping crate or maybe a potted plant. She lands somewhere new, sets up a little beachhead, and then her colony expands like a blitzkrieg, just wiping out all the local species. And eventually, her descendants link up with the huge global supercolony, making the empire even stronger. Our modern, globalized world is the perfect delivery system for their invasion.
So let's just break it down. Why does this ant war actually matter? To you, to me, to all of us? Well, because it's a huge threat to biodiversity, it messes up entire ecosystems, it directly impacts our food supply, and, as we saw, it costs us billions. But maybe more than anything, it's this perfect, scary example of the unintended consequences of our interconnected world.
And that kind of leaves you with this one last,
pretty chilling question. You know, we like to think of ourselves as the rulers of the planet, right? But when you look at this ancient, incredibly resilient, and ruthlessly efficient empire expanding all over the globe, you just have to ask yourself, in the long, long battle for planet Earth, are we humans just the current empire waiting for the next one to take over?